Captain Duhan rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the large screen in front of him. The Korean Space Defense Force Command Center was quiet at 3 a.m., with only the soft beeping of machines breaking the silence. He had been watching the strange object for the past 6 hours, trying to make sense of its movement pattern. "Sir, the object has changed course again," reported Officer Mina, her voice tense. "It's not following any normal orbital path." Duhan straightened in his chair. After 15 years in space defense, he knew this wasn't a satellite or space debris. The object moved too smoothly, too purposefully. "Get me a better image," he ordered, reaching for his coffee. The large screen flickered, and a clearer picture appeared. The object was sleek and silver, about the size of a small passenger plane, with no visible engines or windows. "Should we alert the other defense stations?" Mina asked, her fingers hovering over the communication panel. Before Duhan could answer, the object suddenly stopped. Not slowed down, just stopped, breaking all known laws of physics. The coffee cup slipped from his hand, spilling across the floor. "Send the alert. Now," he commanded, pressing the red button on his console that would wake up every senior military officer in South Korea. High above Earth, aboard the hegemony scout ship, Starseeker, Admiral Kita watched the blue planet with growing interest. His ship's sensors had picked up thousands of satellites, space stations, and what appeared to be primitive defense systems. "Fascinating," he muttered, adjusting his uniform's collar. "They've managed to reach space using nuclear power and chemical rockets." He turned to his science officer, Yoo-jin, who was analyzing the data streams. "What's your assessment?" he asked. Yoo-jin looked up from her holographic display. "They're pre-FTL, sir. Their most advanced weapons use nuclear fission and basic fusion. No quantum technology, no gravity manipulation, not even simple shield generators." She paused, checking another reading. "Though they do have an impressive number of satellites and some crude orbital weapons." Keita smiled. Another primitive world for the hegemony to guide into the future. The humans would resist at first. They always did, but they would soon understand the benefits of joining the galaxy's greatest civilization. Back on Earth, Duhan's command center was now full of military officers and government officials. Defense Minister Park stood behind Duhan's chair, watching the alien ship with narrow eyes. "Can we shoot it down?" Park asked quietly. Duhan shook his head. "Our missiles can't match its maneuverability. And we don't know what kind of weapons it has." "Sir," Mina called out suddenly, "the object is broadcasting something." The room fell silent as a clear artificial voice filled the speakers. It spoke in perfect Korean, though the accent was slightly off. "People of Earth, we are representatives of the galactic hegemony. We have been observing your civilization and have determined you are ready for first contact. Your species shows promise, despite your primitive technology. We come in peace and wish to guide you toward a more advanced future." Duhan and Park exchanged looks. There was something in that message, a hint of superiority, of condescension, that made both men uneasy. "Send them our standard greeting package," Park ordered after a moment's thought. "But get our defense forces ready. Something tells me we'll need them." As the sun rose over Seoul, humanity faced its first contact with alien life. But while the aliens saw a primitive civilization playing with basic technology, they failed to notice something important. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most deadly. And Earth had many simple solutions ready. 3 days after first contact, a much larger ship appeared in Earth's orbit. Unlike the small scout ship, this one was the size of a cruise ship and gleamed like polished gold in the sunlight. Its arrival sent waves of panic through the world's governments. Ambassador Jae-won of the Galactic Hegemony stood in the United Nations building in New York. She wore flowing robes that seemed to change color with every movement, making the human delegates in their suits look plain in comparison. "Your species has 2 choices," she said, her voice smooth but cold. "Join the hegemony willingly and receive our guidance, or be forced to join. Either way, Earth will become part of our empire." The room erupted in angry shouts and protests. J1 merely smiled, as if she were watching children throw a tantrum. Meanwhile, in a secret bunker beneath Seoul, Major Hanbin walked through heavy steel doors. Inside the dim room, 20 of Earth's top military leaders sat around a round table. Screens on the walls showed the alien ship in orbit. "Project Thunderbolt is ready," Hanbin announced, placing a thick folder on the table. "We've been developing it for asteroid defense, but it will work against their ships too." Defense Minister Park picked up the folder. "Explain it simply, Major." Hanbin pointed to a diagram. "It's basically a very big gun, sir. We use magnets to shoot a special bullet very, very fast. The bullet has a small fusion bomb inside it. When it hits something, both the speed and the bomb create a huge explosion. The aliens have energy shields," someone pointed out. Hanbin smiled. "Yes, but their shields are made to stop energy weapons and plasma. Our weapon is just a piece of metal moving really fast. Sometimes the old ways work best." Back at the UN, Ambassador Jaiwan was still speaking. "Your nuclear weapons are toys to us. Your rockets are like stones thrown by cavemen. Submit now, and we will share our advanced technology with you." In the audience, Duhan sat next to Mena, both wearing their formal military uniforms. Mena leaned over and whispered, "They really think we're stupid, don't they?" Duhan nodded. "That's good. Let them think that." The world's leaders met in private after Jaiwan left. The vote was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. They sent their answer through a simple radio message, the kind they thought the primitives would use. Jaiwan received the message in her ship. They refused. She told Admiral Kita over the communication screen. As expected, Kita smiled. "Good. I'll bring the eternal dawn. One look at our greatest warship, and these primitives will understand their mistake." In the Seoul bunker, Hanbin showed the military leaders more details about Project Thunderbolt. The weapon is hidden on the dark side of the moon. The aliens haven't spotted it because it looks like an old mining station. Engineer Sujai is there now, getting it ready. "How long until it's ready to fire?" Park asked. 3 days, Hanbin replied. "Suji says she needs to adjust the magnetic coils one last time. After that, we can hit anything in orbit." As the meeting ended, Duhan looked at the night sky through a small window. Somewhere up there, the aliens were probably laughing at Earth's primitive technology. They didn't understand that humans had been killing each other with simple weapons for thousands of years. They had gotten very good at it. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the best ones. The aliens were about to learn this lesson the hard way. The HMS Eternal Dawn arrived like a giant metal mountain appearing in space. The ship was 5 kilometers long, shaped like a spear, and covered in armor that looked like moving liquid metal. Earth's telescopes showed images of the massive ship on every TV channel and screen worldwide. Admiral Kita stood on the bridge of his mighty warship, looking down at Earth through a window that was bigger than most houses. "Send the message," he ordered, his voice full of pride. Screens across Earth suddenly turned on by themselves. Kita's face appeared on all of them. "People of Earth," he said, "this is the Eternal Dawn, the greatest warship in the galaxy. One shot from our main gun can crack your moon in half. You have 6 hours to surrender." In the Korean Space Defense Command Center, Duhan watched the message with his team. Mena typed quickly on her computer, studying the alien ship. "Sir," she said, "their shield technology is amazing. It uses something called quantum-shifted plasma. Our missiles would just bounce off it." Duhan smiled slightly. "What about a simple metal bullet?" Mena checked her readings. "Their shields, they're designed to stop energy weapons and lasers. They might not even notice something solid moving very fast. Like throwing a rock at someone with an umbrella," Duhan said. "The umbrella stops rain, but not the rock." On the moon's dark side, Engineer Suji worked in a small station that looked like an abandoned mining base. But inside was Project Thunderbolt, Earth's secret weapon. It looked simple, just a very long tube with massive magnets around it, pointing into space. Suji's hands moved quickly over the controls. Magnetic coils at full power, she reported through her radio. The fusion bullet is loaded. We just need the target to move into position. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Kita received a message from Ambassador Jaiwan. The humans are moving their space fleet, she said. They're gathering near their moon. Kaita laughed. Let them come. Their primitive ships can't hurt us. This will be a good lesson for them. He turned to his crew. Prepare the main gun. We'll show them what real power looks like. Duhan led Earth's space fleet, 30 ships that looked small and weak compared to the Eternal Dawn. He positioned them carefully, making it look like they were trying to hide behind the moon. This is perfect, he said quietly to his crew. They think we're scared and hiding. They'll move closer to show off their power. Just as Duhan predicted, the Eternal Dawn started moving toward the moon. Kita wanted to show the humans how hopeless their position was. Look at their primitive ships, Kite told his crew. Chemical rockets and nuclear engines. They're barely better than fireworks. In her moon base, Suji watched her target screen as the massive alien ship moved closer. Her finger hovered over the firing button. The weapon she controlled looked simple, almost crude, compared to the alien technology. But sometimes the simple solutions worked best. Remember, Duhan's voice came through her radio. We only get one shot at this. Suji nodded, even though no one could see her. The greatest warship in the galaxy was about to meet humanity's primitive technology, and Suji had a feeling the aliens were going to be very surprised. Engineer Suji checked Project Thunderbolt one final time. The weapon didn't look impressive. It was just a long metal tube that stretched for 2 kilometers through the moon's underground tunnels. Large magnets lined the tube's entire length. At the end was a bullet the size of a car. Tell me about the bullet again. Duhan's voice came through her radio. His fleet was still playing the role of scared prey, slowly backing away from the Eternal Dawn. Suji touched the bullet's smooth surface. It's simple but clever, she explained. The outside is made of dense metal. Inside is a small fusion bomb. When it hits something, both the speed and the bomb create a huge explosion. How fast will it go? Duhan asked. About 30% of light speed, Suji answered. The magnets will push it faster and faster down the tube. The aliens won't see it coming. It's too simple for their advanced sensors to notice. Above the moon, Admiral Kita watched Earth's ships with amusement. He sat in his command chair on the Eternal Dawn's bridge, drinking something that looked like blue wine. Their ships are so basic, he told his crew. Look at how they still use metal armor. They don't even have simple shield technology. He pointed at his U screen. And those rockets, they're still burning fuel like ancient fireworks. His science officer, Yujin, studied her readings of Earth's fleet. Sir, something seems strange. Their ships are moving in an unusual pattern. Kaita waved his hand dismissively. They're just scared and disorganized. Primitive species always panic when they see real power. In the Korean Space Defense Command Center, Mena monitored the alien ship's position. They're taking the bait, she reported to Minister Park. The Eternal Dawn is moving exactly where we want it. Park nodded seriously. What about their shields? They're using them at full power, Mena said. They want to show off. But their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, plasma, that kind of thing. They don't expect anything solid. Back on the moon, Suji ran the final checks on Project Thunderbolt. Her hands moved steadily despite her nerves. Everything had to be perfect. One small mistake, and Earth's best chance would be lost. Magnets charged to full power, she reported. Fusion core in the bullet is stable. Firing computer is ready. She paused. We just need them to move a little closer. Duhan's voice crackled through her radio again. Trust me, they will. People who think they can't lose always make the same mistake. They get too confident. On the eternal dawn, Kita stood up from his chair. Enough playing with them, he announced. Move us closer. I want them to see every detail of this ship when they surrender. The massive alien warship started moving toward the moon. Its liquid metal armor rippled in the sunlight. Energy shields made the space around it bend and twist. Suji watched through her base's cameras as the huge ship grew larger in view. Her hand rested on the firing control. Years of work, countless tests, and humanity's future all came down to this moment. Funny, she said quietly to herself. They came all this way across the galaxy with their advanced technology, and they're about to be defeated by what they think is a primitive weapon. The eternal dawn moved closer, its shadow falling over the moon's surface. Everything was ready. Humanity's simple but deadly surprise was about to show the galaxy that being advanced didn't always mean being smart. The eternal dawn's first attack lit up space like a new sun. A beam of purple energy shot from the alien ship, cutting through the darkness. It missed Duhan's fleet on purpose, a warning shot to show their power. Look at how primitive their ships are, Admiral Kita said to his bridge crew. They still use windows instead of view screens. Their engines burn fuel like matches. He smiled as he watched Earth's fleet scatter. Fire another warning shot, closer this time. Another purple beam sliced through space. This time it passed so close to Earth's ships that their metal sides glowed red from the heat. In his ship's command room, Duhan pretended to be scared. He ordered his fleet to retreat in what looked like panic. Some ships fired missiles at the eternal dawn, but the alien shields brushed them off like insects. Sir, Mina's voice came through his radio. Their shields are at full power. They're actually using extra energy just to make them visible. They want us to see how strong they are. Duhan smiled. The aliens were doing exactly what he hoped. They were so busy showing off their power that they weren't thinking about simple physics. On the moon base, Suji watched her screen as the massive alien ship moved into position. Her hands were steady on the controls of Project Thunderbolt. The weapon hummed softly as its magnets charged up. Almost there, she whispered. Just a little closer. Admiral Kita stood on his bridge, enjoying his moment of victory. He opened a channel to all Earth's communications, TV, radio, internet, everything. People of Earth, his voice boomed across the planet. Your pitiful fleet can't even scratch our shields. The eternal dawn has enough power to turn your cities to ash. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. In the Korean Space Defense Command Center, Minister Park watched the main screen with narrow eyes. How long until they're in position? He asked. 2 minutes, an officer answered. They're moving exactly where we want them. On the eternal dawn, Kita's science officer, Yujin, noticed something strange. Sir, she said, looking at her readings, I'm detecting a power surge from the moon's dark side. Keita laughed. Probably some primitive radar system. These humans love their simple technologies. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the main gun. Let's show them what real power looks like. The front of the Eternal Dawn began to glow as it gathered energy for its main weapon. The ship's liquid metal armor rippled with power. Its quantum shields created beautiful patterns in space. Duhan watched all this from his ship. He pressed his radio button. Suji, he said quietly, are we ready? In her moon base, Suji had her finger on the firing control. Project Thunderbolt was fully charged. The magnetic tunnel hummed with power. The fusion bullet waited in its chamber. Ready, she answered. They're so busy showing off their fancy shields, they don't even notice us. Keita raised his hand dramatically on the Eternal Dawn's bridge. Let this be a lesson to all primitive species who dare to resist the hegemony. He announced to his crew, fire the main. He never finished his order. Because at that moment, Suja pressed the firing button. Project Thunderbolt, humanity's simple but deadly weapon, began its work. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes the oldest solutions were the best ones. and they were about to learn it the hard way. Project Thunderbolt came alive with a deep rumble that shook the moon's surface. Inside the 2-kilometer magnetic tunnel, the fusion bullet began to move. Slowly at first, then faster and faster as each magnetic ring pushed it forward. In her control room, Suji watched the speed counter rise. 10% of light speed, she reported. 20%. 25%. The bullet continued to accelerate down the long tunnel. By the time it reached the end, it was moving at nearly 1/3 the speed of light. It shot out of the tunnel into space, invisible to the naked eye because of its incredible speed. On the Eternal Dawn's bridge, Admiral Kita was still speaking about the power of his ship when Yujin suddenly shouted, "Sir, something is." She never finished her sentence. The fusion bullet, moving too fast for the alien sensors to track properly, hit the Eternal Dawn's shields. The impact happened so quickly that no one on the bridge even saw it coming. For a split second, nothing seemed to happen. Then physics took over. The bullet's incredible speed turned it into pure energy as it hit the shields. But while the quantum shields were designed to stop energy weapons, they weren't prepared for the physical impact. The bullet punched through them like they weren't even there. Impossible. Kita screamed as alarms began to sound throughout his ship. Our shields are the most advanced in the galaxy. The bullet slammed into the Eternal Dawn's liquid metal hull. At the same moment, the fusion bomb inside the bullet detonated. The combination of the impact's kinetic energy and the fusion explosion was more powerful than anything the alien ship was designed to handle. From his fleet's position, Du-Han watched as a new star seemed to appear where the Eternal Dawn had been. The explosion was so bright that automatic filters had to cover his ship's windows. Direct hit. Suji's voice came through the radio, filled with excitement. The fusion bullet worked exactly as planned. When the light faded, the Eternal Dawn was still there, but it was broken. The mighty warship had been split in half. Its beautiful liquid metal armor was frozen in weird shapes. The quantum shields flickered and died. In the Korean Space Defense Command Center, people cheered as they watched their simple weapon destroy the galaxy's greatest warship. Minister Park smiled as he watched the screens. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "the old ways are the best ways." On what was left of the Eternal Dawn's bridge, Kita stared in shock at the destruction around him. Warning signals screamed from every console. The ship's artificial gravity was failing. The mighty warship, pride of the hegemony fleet, was dying. "How?" he whispered. "How did they do this? They're primitives. They don't even have shield technology." Yujin checked her damaged sensors. When she understood what had happened, she laughed bitterly. "Sir," she said, "they shot us with a metal bullet. A simple bullet, just moving very, very fast. Our shields." She shook her head. "Our shields were looking for energy weapons. We never thought they'd use something so basic." Du-Han's voice came through all the working communication systems. "Admiral Kita," he said calmly, "this is Earth's Defense Force. Would you like to discuss surrender terms?" Kita looked out his broken bridge window at Earth's fleet approaching. The primitive ships, with their simple metal hulls and chemical rockets, now surrounded his ruined warship. The mighty Eternal Dawn, destroyed by what the hegemony had called Caveman technology. As emergency pods launched from his dying ship, Kita realized that his people had made a terrible mistake. They had forgotten that sometimes the simplest weapons were the deadliest. 1 month after the destruction of the Eternal Dawn, Earth had changed. Pieces of the mighty alien warship now sat in museums around the world. Scientists studied the wreckage, learning secrets of advanced technology. But everyone agreed. The most important thing they learned was that simple solutions often worked best. In Seoul, Captain Du-Han sat in a large meeting room. Representatives from the galactic hegemony sat across the table, looking much less proud than before. Ambassador Jai-won was there, but she no longer wore her color-changing robes. Instead, she dressed simply, showing new respect for Earth's primitive culture. Let us be clear, Jai once said, her voice careful and polite. Earth will be recognized as a sovereign power. No hegemony ships will enter your space without permission. She paused. We would also like to learn more about your weapons technology. Duhan smiled. You mean our primitive technology? Jaiwan's face turned slightly red. We were wrong to underestimate you. Sometimes the simple solution is the best solution. In her moon-based laboratory, Suji worked with a team of scientists from both Earth and the hegemony. They studied Project Thunderbolt together. The aliens were amazed by how simple and effective the weapon was. Your people overthink everything, Suji told a hegemony scientist. You build complex shields to stop energy weapons, but forget about simple physical impacts. You make liquid metal armor, but forget about basic physics. The alien scientist nodded. We became so focused on advanced technology that we forgot the fundamental rules of nature. He looked at the magnetic tunnel with respect. Your people remembered what we forgot. Admiral Kita, now a prisoner on Earth, sat in a comfortable room watching TV. News reports showed how Earth was already using hegemony technology to improve human life. But they kept their simple weapons, just in case. I still don't understand, Kita told his guard. How did you know our shields wouldn't stop your weapon? The guard smiled. We didn't know for sure. But we figured you'd be so focused on stopping advanced weapons that you wouldn't think about the basics. Sometimes the best trick is the oldest trick. In the Korean Space Defense Command Center, Maina showed Minister Park the latest reports. The hegemony had officially listed Earth as a protected independent world. No alien empire would dare attack them now. They're calling it the Thunderbolt Doctrine, Maina said. Never assume advanced technology beats simple solutions. Every hegemony ship is being redesigned to handle physical impacts. Park nodded. And what about our new ships? We're building them now. They have hegemony shields and liquid metal armor. Mina grinned. But we're keeping our simple weapons too, just in case someone else gets too proud. The story of how Earth defeated the galaxy's greatest warships spread across the stars. Other worlds learned from it. Some began developing their own primitive weapons. The hegemony learned to be more humble. Duhan, Suji, and their team became heroes. But they didn't let fame change them. They kept working, kept thinking, kept looking for simple solutions to complex problems. 1 year later, Suji stood on the moon, looking at Earth through a window. Project Thunderbolt was now a museum, but new weapons protected their world. Some used advanced alien technology, but others were just as simple as the fusion bullet. The aliens learned an important lesson, she said to a group of students visiting her lab. Just because something is old or simple doesn't mean it's weak. Sometimes the oldest ideas are the best ideas. She pointed to the stars. And now the whole galaxy knows. Never underestimate humans and their primitive technology. The students nodded, understanding the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the simplest solution is the strongest solution.